Hello, Disney Infinity trainers. Welcome back to another episode of our Honoring the Top 16 series here on iStarly TV. This is the series where we are taking an in-depth look at the top 16 characters in our Disney Infinity Tournament series. Syndrome is one of those top 16, and it was no easy feat for him to get this far, which really I think showcases how powerful of a character he actually is in the series. Now, Syndrome is a villain, which is pretty awesome. I guess it's kind of fitting that he's here. He has fun defeating foes. And a little fun fact here is that Syndrome is one of only 4 1.0 characters to make it to the top 16. So that makes him pretty unique, I guess. So let's take a trip down memory lane and try our best to remember the fights that Syndrome went through to get here. In round 1, Syndrome took on Rapunzel, who was yet another newcomer to the series. Rapunzel was one of the most feared characters going into it because her pans, when she throws that frying pan at you, it's sometimes just game over. She is one of those annoying range characters, which, spoiler alert, Syndrome is as well. But Syndrome was able to mount a comeback. It was a very close game. It was very back and forth throughout the game, throughout the fight, and Syndrome was finally able to pull through and finish her off with his 0-point energy. In round 2, Syndrome fought against Phineas, yet another 1.0 character with annoying ranged capabilities, and Syndrome was able to outmaneuver Phineas and really take advantage of him. I think the fact that Phineas was so small, and also because Phineas got a little too aggressive that fight, Syndrome was able to kind of manipulate the battle in his favor, and once again he was victorious. In round 3, Syndrome fought against Violet Parr, who proved herself to be one of the strongest characters from 1.0, and possibly one of the strongest characters in the series. Who knows? Unfortunately, her streak ended when Syndrome spammed his laser energy, and she was really unable to gain an advantage after that, and therefore Syndrome has advanced this far. Now, if you look at Syndrome's opponents so far, he has fought nothing but 1.0 characters, but that shouldn't say anything about his skill. That doesn't mean that he's bad, not at all. The foes that he fought, as we've shown, have been very powerful in their own right. So I think Syndrome has definitely earned his spot in the top 16, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes. Let's take a look at that skill tree then. Now, Syndrome has an insane amount of defensive investments. He has a shield, which has been upgraded several times, as well as 3 health boosts. Now, this is really important because it means that not only can Syndrome be an offensive threat by spamming his laser energy, he can also take hits, which, as we've seen time and again in the series, is one of the ways that you continue to do well. If you have a little bit of health, even if you're really powerful, you can still die if your opponent outmaneuvers you and just attacks you more. Syndrome is able to get the upper hand by being able to take hits and dish them out as well. Now, because Syndrome is a 1.0 character, he does not have a special move, which I think limits him in a big way. So if he fights against a 2.0 or 3.0 character, they're going to want to keep that in mind. Syndrome is kind of like a one-trick pony. The best he can do is shoot lasers at you. That is it. And if you can find a way to beat that, well, you can find a way to beat Syndrome. But he is not slow. He has 2 running speed investments and 1 super jump, meaning that he's a very mobile character. Of course, the interior arena is going to limit mobility once again, but it's not going to hinder him from running fast. Next, we have the damage from his melee combo. Now, as you can see, it's actually pretty heavily invested, so we're going to take a look at it right now. Even though it doesn't seem like Syndrome is the best combat fighter, he does clearly have a lot of investment in the melee, and so for that reason, I think that's something that he should be looked at for as well. Here is his ranged attack, and as you can see, all we've done is increase the damage for it. That's all you can do with it. You can't increase the amount that it stuns. Because he's a 1.0 character, he really has a limitation on the special attributes to his powers. I've gone ahead and spawned a few enemies here. Let's go ahead and see. His shield is pretty low, but it still can take hits well. See, that 0 point energy, that is where... that is where he wins games. That's how he beat Violet. Let's try his melee, though. It's not bad either. Syndrome is a pretty powerful character. Probably one of the best 1.0 characters, but we'll see. He might be the next Buzz Lightyear. Who knows? Alright, just a little more. Alright. Yeah, Syndrome is powerful. But let's talk about the future. Let's talk about round 4. Here are our top 16 characters. Now, which of these does Syndrome feel he's going to have a bad matchup against? Well, let's take a look at Yoda first. I think any character can have a bad matchup against Yoda if Yoda is able to grab these special capsules. If Yoda can pick those up right away, it's probably game over. All he needs to do is gang up on Syndrome and he can win that way. So Yoda can be a threat against Syndrome. But Syndrome feels fairly confident against other ranged characters, other weaker ranged characters such as Jessie, Minnie, you know, Sadness, maybe Fear, Joy. He feels that he has a good shot against them. Now, Jack Skellington is a character who's also really mobile and is very tall, so that might be a downside for Syndrome. Hulkbuster is another one who can probably take hits well and deal a lot of damage. So if I were to name 3 characters that I feel Syndrome would have a tough matchup against, I would say Hulkbuster, Jack Skellington, and Yoda. So what do you think of Syndrome? What do you think he is capable of in round 4? Will he make it further, or do you think this is his end? Please let us know, and leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you'd like to see more of these videos, and more in the Disney Infinity games. We are nearing the end of the series. I can't believe it. This has been the craziest season we've had so far, and things are only going to get crazier. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.